again, boys. I thought we would start reading The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And you've got this book, at least Matthew and Gabriel and Johnny do, and Micah and Nehemiah and Caleb and Moses and Isaac. Hopefully you can find it, because the pictures are hard to see. Okay. Chapter 1, What Lucy Found. Once there were 4 children, whose names were Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy. This story is about something that happened to them when they were sent away from London during the war because of the air raids. They were sent to the house of an old professor who lived in the heart of the country, 10 miles from the nearest railway station and 2 miles from the nearest post office. He had no wife, and he lived in a very large house with a housekeeper called Mrs. Macready and 3 servants. On the first evening when the professor came out to meet them at the front door, he was so odd-looking that Lucy, who was the youngest, was a little afraid of him, and Edmund, who was the next youngest, wanted to laugh and had to pretend he was blowing his nose. There's a picture of where they went. As soon as they had said goodnight to the professor and gone upstairs on the first night, the boys came into the girls' room and they all talked it over. We've fallen on our feet, and no mistake, this is going to be splendid. That old chap will let us do anything we like. I think he's an old dear. Oh, come off it. Don't keep on trying to talk like Mother. Hadn't we all better go to bed? There's bound to be a row if we're heard talking here. No, there won't. I tell you, this is the sort of house where no one's going to mind what we do. What's that noise? It's only a bird, silly. It's an owl. This is going to be a wonderful, wonderful place for birds. I say, let's go and explore tomorrow. You might find anything in a place like this. There might be eagles. There might be stags. There'll be hawks. But when morning came, of course it would be raining. Do stop grumbling, Ed. It's bound to clear up in an hour or so. In the meantime, there's a wireless and lots of books. Not for me. I'm going exploring in the house. Come on. It was the sort of house that you never seem to come out to the end of. And it was full of unexpected places. They looked into one room that was quite empty, except for a big wardrobe. They all trooped into the room and trooped out again. There's some pictures of the house. All except Lucy. Looking inside, she saw several long fur coats hanging up. She took a step in, and then a step further, and then 2 or 3 steps, and then she saw there was a light ahead of her. Lucy felt a little frightened, but she felt very inquisitive and excited as well. She began to walk forward over the snow toward the light. In about 10 minutes she reached it and found it was a lamppost. As she stood looking at it, wondering why there was a lamppost in the middle of a wood, she heard a pitter-patter of feet coming toward her. A very strange person stepped out from among the trees. He was only a little taller than Lucy, and from the waist upward he was like a man, but his legs were shaped like a goat's, and instead of feet, he had goat's hoofs. Goodness gracious me! Excuse me, I don't want to be inquisitive, but should I be right in thinking that you are a daughter of Eve? I don't quite understand. My name is Lucy. But you are, in fact, human? Of course I'm human. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Tumnus. I'm very pleased to meet you, Mr. Tumnus. To be sure, how stupid of me, but I've never seen a daughter of Eve before. I am delighted. And may I ask, how have you come into Narnia? Narnia? What's that? And there is Lucy and the lamppost and Mr. Tumnus. This is the land of Narnia, all that lies between the lamppost and the great castle of Cair Paravel. And you have come from the wild woods of the west? I got in through the wardrobe in the spare room. It's only just back there. At least, I'm not sure. It is summer there. Meanwhile, it is winter in Narnia and has been for ever so long. Daughter of Eve from the far land of Spare where eternal summer reigns around the bright city of Wardrobe. Now, how would it be if you came and had tea with me? It's only just around the corner, and there'll be a roaring fire and toast and sardines and cake. And really it was a wonderful tea. When Lucy was tired of eating, the fawn began to talk. He had wonderful tales to tell of life in the forest. He told about the midnight dances, about long hunting parties after the milk-white stag who could give you wishes if you caught him, about feasting and treasure-seeking with the wild red dwarfs, and then about summer when the woods were green and Bacchus himself would come to visit them, and then the streams would run with wine instead of water, and the whole forest would give itself up to jollification for weeks on end. Not that it isn't always winter now. Then, to cheer himself up, he took out from its case a strange little flute that looked as if it were made of straw, and began to play. And the tune he played made Lucy want to cry and laugh and dance and go to sleep all at the same time. It must have been hours later when she shook herself and said, "Oh, Mr. Tumnus, I'm so sorry to stop you, but really I must go home. I only meant to stay for a few minutes." "It's no good now, you know." "No good? What do you mean?" "I've got to go home at once. The others will be wondering what has happened to me." "Mr. Tumnus, whatever is the matter?" "Mr. Tumnus, don't. Aren't you well? Dear Mr. Tumnus, what's wrong?" Oh, I'm crying because I am such a bad fawn." "I don't think you're a bad fawn at all. I think you're a very good fawn." "You wouldn't say that if you knew." "No, I'm a bad fawn. I don't suppose there ever was a worse fawn since the beginning of the world." "But what have you done?" "I'm in the pay of the White Witch." "The White Witch? Who is she?" "It is she who makes it always winter and never Christmas. Think of that." "How awful. But what does she pay you for?" "I'm a kidnapper for her. Would you believe I'm the sort of fawn to meet a poor innocent child in the wood and invite it to my cave in order to lull it asleep and hand it over to the White Witch? No, I'm sure you wouldn't do anything of the sort." "But I have. All the time I've been meaning to wait until you were asleep and then go and tell her." "Oh, but you won't. Indeed, you really mustn't." "And if I don't, she'll have my tail cut off, and my horns sawn off, and my beard plucked out, and if she is extra specially angry, she'll turn me into stone." "I'm very sorry, but please let me go home." "Of course I can't give you up to the witch, not now that I know you, but we must be off at once. I'll see you back to the lamppost. I suppose you can find your own way from there." "I'm sure I can." "We must go as quietly as we can. The whole wood is full of her spies. Even some of the trees are on her side." "Do you know the way from here, Daughter of Eve?" "Yes, I can see the wardrobe door." "Then be off home as quick as you can. And never forgive me. Can you ever forgive me for what I meant to do?" "Why, of course I can." "Farewell, Daughter of Eve. Perhaps I may keep the handkerchief?" "Rather." And presently, "I'm here. I've come back. I'm all right." And there's Lucy and Mr. Tumnus. And that was chapter 1. We'll read chapter 2 next time. Goodbye, boys. I love you.